get started then. Thanks, everybody. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call to order the November 13th, 2023 Committee on Real Estate. First item up on the agenda is an invocation from Councilman Shade. He is currently in a vehicle right now. Councilman Shade, you're more than welcome to take it away. If not, we can maybe call on Councilmember Greg to pinch hit.
I'm ready to go ahead, Mr. Chairman, if you're ready for me to do that.
Great, let's do it.
Okay. Almighty God and Father, we give thanks to the many veterans who have served our country, who have honorably protected us, defended our democracy, defended our freedom. Let's give thanks to them for all the sacrifices they and their families have given to us. In God's name we pray, amen.
Great, thank you for that. First item up on the agenda is approval of the minutes from October 23rd, 2023. Can I entertain a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'm going to try to get through as much of this agenda as I can. I have a work engagement I have to be at 5 o'clock, so I'm going to probably have to head out of here around 4:40. Councilman Shade has graciously agreed to chair the meeting when I have to go, but let's take it as far as we can. First item on the agenda is authorization for the mayor to execute a development agreement between the Charleston Habitat for Humanity and the city of Charleston for the redevelopment of 1345, and this is for 3 new townhomes earning up to 80% of AMI. Ms. Shaw Johnson, would you like to maybe give us a few more details on this one?
Yes, sir. And you all would have seen a transfer agreement previously on this item, Chair Appel, but this is now the development agreement. They're moving forward more specifically on the design. They are about to go before our TRC for a sketch plan Wednesday. And we do this in 2 parts. We do the transfer agreement, which gets them started on their due diligence. And then we do the development agreement, which actually allows them to move forward, close on the property so that they can secure the financing in order to move forward on the construction. I have Florence and legal on here. Further explanation is needed. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Any questions, or can I entertain a motion rather?
Move for approval.
Move for approval. Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any questions or discussion from the committee members? All right, hearing none. All in favor, please signify support by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next item up is an authorization for the mayor to execute on behalf of the city an second amendment to a transfer agreement. And this is for 36 Cooper Street for some additional affordable rental housing units. And this is for, it looks like a extension of the closing date. Is that all this is?
Yes, sir, it is. And yes, it is. Correct.
All right. This one sounds relatively straightforward. Can I entertain a motion?
So move.
Second.
All right, moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify support by saying aye.
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 Aye. The ayes have it. Next item is an authorization for the mayor to execute a development agreement between the city of Charleston and the Charleston County Human Services Commission, and this is again for 36 Cooper Street. And this is for 4 rental units for people earning 50 to 80% of AMI, and these will be affordable for 90 years with a 10-year option to extend. That's the future, y'all. Ms. Shaw Johnson, do you want to give us a few more details on this one?
Yes, sir. So they're essentially moving forward a little bit more quickly because they had to extend the transfer agreement. They went ahead and began their due diligence. So essentially, this transfer agreement, the extension thereof, gives them time to get closed. And they, again, have already moved forward on starting their stormwater, their review with TRC. So essentially, we're pushing them along, and having both of these agreements on at the same time will allow them to move more expeditiously with advancing the construction at 36 Cooper.
Wonderful, wonderful. That makes sense. Can I entertain a motion?
So move.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify support by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. Next item up, item D, is approval of a second amendment for the lease of the Lockwood Marina and authorization for the mayor to execute it on behalf of the city. And this is over at 17 Lockwood Drive, and Miss Dinwoody has turned on her screen. So take it away.
Good afternoon, council members. What this is a request to approve a second amendment to the lease agreement for the city marina, which is our tenant is Safe Harbor Marinas. As you're likely aware, Safe Harbor is in the process of redeveloping the marina with the docks and the piers in that area, including the construction of a mega dock. What this second amendment is doing is authorizing them to remove portions of the city walls in furtherance of that redevelopment plan. Under the original 1993 lease agreement, the city walls could only be removed if it was part of the desilting plan, and that was only during the first term of that agreement. We're quite a ways removed from that. The desilting plan is not effective, so they've decided not to continue with that. However, the removal of portions of the city wall would allow for the redevelopment plan to proceed. So what we're asking for is permission for them to remove portions of the city wall only in furtherance of that redevelopment plan. And if there were any additional portions that they would want to remove, they would have to come to us and request separate permission to do that. So essentially what this amendment does is it just allows them to proceed with that redevelopment plan with the removal of certain city wall portions.
When you say city wall, what is that referring to?
Yes, sir. And I apologize. I'm saying city wall. What I should be saying is city marina walls. And if you, there were the plans attached to the proposed amendment, and I believe it was sheet 5. I'm happy to share my screen with you if that's okay. And I can point out the specific sections that they're discussing to remove. There we go. All right, so this is included in the amendment, and right here we have circled and highlighted the specific sections of the marina walls to be removed. These are fixed structures that part of the docks are coming off of. So the removal of these walls will just allow them more flexibility to rearrange those docks and increase the efficiency. Additionally, the request is being made because portions of the city marina walls that were constructed back in the 1960s, they are deteriorating. The concrete is, breaking off. There's some exposed rebar. So it's the belief that removal of these city walls will not only increase the efficiency of the dock spacing, but it will also increase safety by taking away those potential hazards from the waterways.
You learn something new every day in this business. Fascinating stuff. And so the general idea is to push the slips further out into the channel because of the silting. I mean, is that the overall goal?
Actually, this redevelopment plan is not going to change at all the area that is already permitted for this redevelopment plan. It's not going to push those docks out further into the channel. Everything is still within the permitted zone that was previously approved. I want to say the permit was approved in 2012, if I'm recalling correctly. Essentially, what it's doing is just reconfiguring certain things. So I'm trying to see. I believe in the proposed amendment, there's a full sheet of plans and you can see the proposed modifications compared to what is currently permitted. These are the existing conditions. The permitted conditions, and then this is the proposed modifications, and we see these portions here that are to be removed.
Got it. Got it. Well, thank you so much. I've hogged the mic here due to fascination around marinas and water and boats. So can I entertain a motion?
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, moved and properly seconded. Any discussion, questions? Councilman Gregg.
So just real quick, so it looks like they're adding 730 feet. I mean, if I read the plans correctly, 730 feet of new heavy duty floating dock to the existing 1,525 feet. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that's correct. It was about 1,500. I believe that's already permitted, and yes, it would add that additional section.
Is the tenant allowed to do this by their existing lease, or us approving this amendment? Is that allowing them to do this additional 730 feet?
Sure. So under the existing lease, redevelopment plans have to be approved by the city. And I understand that these plans were submitted in November and were previously approved when they were submitted at that time. They're either approved by approved in writing, or the passage of time without approving them specifically allows them to be approved.
Okay. I guess, my question is, I don't know who is this. I assume heavy duty floating dock is for some of these very, very, very large yachts and things that we see docked down there on a fairly regular basis. I don't know how many of those are Charleston residents, but I would guess not a whole lot. But I'll just ask that question. Is this 730 feet? It looks like that's what they're trying to do, is add an additional 730 feet. And I don't quite understand whether this has to come to council, whether this has already been approved, or whether that's what we're voting on here right now.
Yes, sir. To answer your question, these plans were previously submitted in November.
Okay.
I understand that they
Of
were
last year.
either yes, sir. Either explicitly approved at that time, or the passage of time has allowed them to be approved.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Councilman Shea, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, just a quick question. Are there any plans to be able to realign the marina so that you could include the launching of motorboats or other pleasure craft from that launch that's presently soaked in pretty deeply? Elena, that may be something way off your radar screen right now, but you used to be able to launch private pleasure boats at the marina, and it looks like the soaking has caused such a problem that they quit doing that. So I didn't know if these plans were taking that into consideration or not.
Sure. And I honestly don't know the answer to that question, but I'm happy to find out the answer and bring that back to you.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
so I would just like to add to the conversation, if I may. The concept of this addition has been years, if not more than a decade in the making, and for them to have gotten that approval to move the channel and redo the bridge and all like that, even if the specific plans hadn't been submitted until a year ago, they've been talking about this ever since I got elected mayor 8 years ago. So they've been thinking about it a long time. And yes, Councilmember Greg, there's not a lot of Charlestonians with those super mega dock boats, but it was almost having that facility in Charleston was, I mean, it was a way to make Charleston, you know, a stop along the way for, you know, the north-south traffic and folks that would be able to spend a little money while they're here. So that was contemplated for a long time. And then the Councilmember Shade's question, which I remember putting my own little sailboat in and out of the city marina back in the day. It was a very convenient place to put in a boat. But all that silting in made that possibility go away also a long time ago, probably after Hugo. I don't think there's been any, pardon my dogs, any ramp ability that all that time.
All right, good deal. Any further questions, comments? I believe we have a motion on the floor, correct?
Right.
We do.
All right, good deal. I'll call for the question. All in favor, please signify support by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Got one opposed. The ayes have it. Next item up is an authorization for the mayor to execute a third amendment to a bargain sale agreement. And let's see, Ms. Copeland.
That would be me. Hello, everyone.
I need some help here. Thank you.
So this was actually before you in August and it was approved. However, the developer asked that we go back in and just define actual reimbursable costs. So it's the exact same agreement with the same extension on the inspection period to December 29th. It locks us in at a cap of $250,000 toward the road improvements for our Fire Station 20 site. And then it just details what we both consider reimbursable costs, which construction, engineering, permitting, bonding, soil testing, surveying, construction management, sidewalks, and utility relocation. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but we would recommend that we approve this a second time so we can get it done.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Copeland. Can I entertain a motion?
Move for approval.
Moved and
Second.
properly seconded. Any discussion, comments? Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to note, I guess you see that the owner of the property is Cato AD Holdings, and the Cato refers to Mr. Wayland Cato, who just recently passed away at the age of 100 and was a remarkable citizen and philanthropist. So I think the funeral is this week. I just wanted to thank him for his service and for his generosity in helping make this location for our fire department possible. But he was a very noteworthy and wonderful citizen of our community.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for that. 100 is a pretty remarkable life. Any further comments, questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. Now, I don't have to go, but I do have to recuse myself from item F. If Councilman Shade could take this over, I would greatly appreciate it.
We're gonna sound like a ping pong ball, me taking this and you leaving and me taking it back. So well,
I appreciate it. I owe you one.
all right. That's item F, authorization for the mayor to accept an easement on behalf of the city for the purpose of maintaining a future multi-use path on property located at 551 Folly Road. And who's going to take that out for us, Ms. Copeland?
Yes, sir. Got this one as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you my screen so you can see where this property actually is. Can you see this, Ariel?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so here's Folly Road. If we scroll out a little further, This is where the James Allen Expressway dumps out. So interestingly, this is on the other side of Folly Road. Normally we get commercial properties on this side. This parcel, I think it was a doctor's office before, and there's a typo in the agenda, and I'm going to attribute this to my routing form, which was probably incorrect. The owner of this property is not the city of Charleston. It is Zengurley Folly LLC. And the improvements that they would like to make on this parcel, you can see here, just improving the parking lot and adding some trees for buffers. And of course, since it's in the county, they're going to require a 6-foot multi-use or sidewalk here. And as with the county, with most things, they ask that the city take over maintenance with this. So what's before you today is a request that we accept an easement for maintenance purposes on this particular sidewalk once it is built out.
You know, I love these comments about sidewalk maintenance.
I know. And, you know, we really, this coming year, we do need to sit down with the county and figure out a better arrangement for this. I agree.
All right.
But I'm sure.
Is there a motion? It ain't coming from me. So is there a motion for approval? Yeah, is there a second?
I'll say.
Second.
Are there any further discussion as to item F on this maintenance request for sidewalk? Seeing no further discussion, call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right. So, Mr. Chairman, it's back to you.
All right, caught the ball. Thanks. Appreciate it. Councilman Shade, thanks for stepping in there. Item G is an authorization for the mayor to accept a non-exclusive perpetual recreational easement over St. Mary's Field from the Beach Company. This is over by the Jasper, looks like, and this is for property owned by the city.
Yes, and thank you, Councilman Appel. So this is ours as well. And for those of you who've been on council for a while, I'm sure you remember the
oh boy,
the Jasper incident, I'll call it. So as part of the settlement, the beach company is required to give us a perpetual recreational use easement over their St. Mary's Field. And so they're getting ready to actually, it looks like some activities going on over here. So they're looking to build out, but this is the particular area right here. And I think there's already a retaining wall built up right here. And so after about a year of negotiation on this perpetual easement, we are finally here before you today. I think the holdup was the idea of maintenance costs and the number. So ultimately what Jason Kronsberg and I came up with, which I have to attribute this to Jason because he's good with this kind of stuff, is instead of us contributing an annual sum, when we were negotiating, they wanted to put 6 figures toward maintenance of this and then have us split it. So Jason offered up the idea of a mow, blow, and go, which is what we typically do on our city parks. And for a park of this size, it averages $25,000 annually. So what we would do is insert this into the recreational budget for annual approval each year to contribute toward the maintenance of St. Mary's Field. And in exchange, it would be open to the public. And so that's what I have for you. And we would recommend approval on this one. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Copeland. Councilman Waring.
Thank you. Going back to the drawing, well, a Google shot from overhead.
Uh-huh. You want to see it again?
Yeah, if we can.
Sure.
The pedestrian walk path that's just north of the Jasper.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that supposed to come across and on the St. Mary's Field?
You think you're talking about this piece right here?
Correct. Right. Is that to be extended? Right up in that area.
I believe that is part of the design, but I'm going to have to confirm that with Beach Company before I lock in on that.
Okay.
Yes is the answer to that question.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, back for Councilman Boyd, Greg and Appel, back in the last century, it was negotiated that this would be all that would have been green space.
Hmm.
The whole thing wouldn't have been any townhouses built in. And the beach company agreed to that. But as we know. Anyway, thank you.
Good deal. Councilman Shade, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, Julia, can you just show us exactly what portion of the property that we're talking about one more time?
It would be, I believe, from this retaining wall here, this area right here. There's going to be a fountain and then a green space here.
Yeah.
It's all
A
passive.
little bit bigger than that, Julia, but
Oh, thank you, Jason.
yeah, so and she is correct and the mayor is correct. That pathway there would be a extension across right where our cursor shows. And where that retaining wall is already constructed in the image. So to the right of that, in front of the numbers, that's the park space. And then between those numbers that appear to be somewhat like lot numbers, or the number from to the right of the TMS number to Berry Street is their development. And between that curved retaining wall and that TMS number is the future park space. So this would secure a public easement over that park space for the future to come.
So Jason, where Julia's got the cursor down by that 457 TMS number, that's where the property begins, that point?
Yeah, so that whole curve over to like almost where the 0 is at the end of the TMS number.
Oh, here.
That whole area is park space.
Thank you. That makes better sense.
And then in that area below the retaining wall where she pointed to originally is really low, and there's some utilities out there as well. But that retaining wall holds the new park in between the future townhomes and the park.
How many acres are you talking about, Jason?
It's in square feet, so I'm not sure the total acreage of the park space off the top of my head.
If you look at exhibit B in the packet, it shows the, I guess, conceptual layout of the park.
Okay. By the way, just for y'all's edification, and the chairman would remember this, but the parcels that are marshland, to, I guess, the north of that, 4570701 and 1007. That was the property we had talked about some time ago that is actually plotted and it's marshland there. And we had that discussion of taking that for stormwater purposes, I think, a couple of years ago, I think, Mr. Chairman, is that right?
That you're absolutely right. And if Julia would be so kind to pan over to West Ashley a little bit, James Island, there's lots platted.
Yes.
Oh, under the bridge. Yes.
I mean, look at
It's
that
crazy.
right up there. There's a whole subdivision right next to
the subdivision of the water.
Look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, I got some waterfront property to sell you in Nebraska over there.
Somebody owns this. This is interesting.
I mean, someone's paying taxes on that.
Yeah, someone's paying. They are.
That's
it
amazing.
might be accreted one day. You never know.
There's got to be a story to that for sure. I see Councilman Gregg and the mayor have their hand up.
I believe Mr. Mayor was first.
Well, I'm not sure if I was, but while you got this screen up, I would also point out that parcel there, 006, it's on the West Ashley side, that belongs to the city of Charleston, y'all.
Wow.
Nice right there.
Yeah.
How about that?
You can't get there except by boat, but I've always thought that one day we ought to put a little dock over on that side and make a park there. But my recollection is the St. Mary's Field public space is about 1/3 of an acre, and I don't know if it really was mentioned, but the beach company, part of their deal is to improve it, and they plan on very, very nice finish to the park, and I think one reason why there was a prolonged discussion about the cost of the maintenance is their intent is to keep it at a very high level of maintenance, but we felt respectfully that we should just reimburse them for what our kind of normal operating costs are, and then if they want to exceed that's certainly up to them, and they're able and I think willing to do that. So we're going to have it's not going to be a large park, but it's going to be really nice, and it's going to be kept up well. And So anyway, that was what we ended up with.
Good stuff. Good stuff. More parks, the better.
Mhm.
Councilman Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I guess I'd like to go back to Councilman Waring's comment. So originally this whole parcel ending in 1030 was supposed to be city park. Am I understanding that correctly? And now it's
Yeah,
not?
that was part of the negotiations when, for what is now the new Jasper. And actually they had it all planned out, nice rendering and all that was presented, but anyway, that didn't
Did we just enter executive session or something?
Yeah, hold on one second. There we go. Okay.
yeah, so that one didn't work out. They ended up going to court and
Oh, okay. All
feelings
right.
got hurt, and so they went ahead and developed it.
Got it. Okay. So this has all been settled. Never mind.
Oh yeah, all that's over with. Yeah.
Blame the lawyers.
That's why we got
Not-
Green, the mayor.
Not lawyers on this call though.
I wasn't here for that,
Oh
unfortunately.
yeah, I don't know where I was.
You're probably still in high school.
Probably, yeah. I'm much
Actually,
longer
that used
here.
to be the practice field for Bishop England football team. Right?
That's right.
that
Back in the
right? Wow.
day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, learned a lot on this agenda item.
Yeah.
Man.
I'll
Item
add
G.
one more tidbit. It wasn't high ground until after Hugo.
That's right.
Think about that.
Wow. Who says you can't make more real estate? All right. I think this will be the last one before I turn the mic over to
I don't
Councilman
think you
Shade.
voted on that one, Councilman.
Oh, we didn't vote. We didn't vote. Sorry.
And Councilmember Appel, who is the motion in the second? I'm sort of taking over for Brittany.
Got it. Do y'all recall who moved and seconded this one?
I think I moved. Yeah. And I thought,
I'll be the second.
Councilman Waring moved and Councilman Greg seconded.
Thank you.
All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. Next item up is a lease renewal for 2 years between the city and MUSC, and this is for the Fishburne Ballpark parking lot, and the lease extension will run from June 1st, 2024 to May 31st, 2026. And this is for city-owned property over at 305 Fishburne Street. Is that about as straightforward as it sounds?
Yes.
Okay. Anything
So
to add,
moved.
Ms. Dinwiddie?
second.
Just one other little thing to add is that the West Edge Foundation has a right to purchase this property. We have communicated with them and MUSC about this lease extension. We've included terms to allow the lease to be assignable to West Edge Foundation, as well as a 120-day option to terminate should they choose. So all parties are aware that West Edge Foundation will be exercising that option to purchase.
Understood. Great. Any we've got a motion and second on the floor.
Yes, sir.
Great. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Fine.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. And Councilman Shade, if you don't mind taking the wheel from here, I'd
Glad to
greatly
do it.
appreciate it, and put it on my tab.
All right. I'll make you cash in tomorrow
Thank you. Thank
at the
you.
city council meeting.
Count on it. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is approval of an amendment to the management agreement between the city and the Oil Exchange Commission for an additional 3 years. And I see Matt on the line. Matt, that means you're going to talk about this?
Yes, sir.
All righty.
So thank you. This is just the amendment to the management agreement with the state for the city to run the old exchange building. The only thing I would bring to everyone's attention, historically, we've done 1-year amendments to this. Coming out of the last special facilities committee meeting, it was raised if we could do more than that. We took that to the Old Exchange Commission in Columbia. They were more than happy to do that. So we're now bringing forward a 3-year extension to the agreement.
I was real curious about that, Matt, and I'm glad you made that comment, because I remember we were doing this every year since I've been on council. It's just been a yearly renewal. So this will give us triple amount of leeway than we had in the past. That's good. All right. Is there a motion on the floor to accept this?
Oh, so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
And I may have mentioned this last year, if you don't remember, but the Old Exchange Building is one of the most historic buildings in not just the city, but in the country. It is one of 4 of the surviving buildings in which the Declaration of Independence was read back in 1776 out of the 13 original colonies. It's the same building that's still in existence. And it has in display the Declaration of Independence 50-year anniversary reproduction. So when they had the 50th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, all the colonies are now states, got a reproduction of the Declaration of Independence, and we're one of the locations in which that is located, maintained. So if you haven't been to the Old Exchange Building, this is my civic call to arms to go visit it and take in some good history that's present in the city of Charleston. Any further discussion? I'll entertain a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The next item of our agenda is the ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a consent to assignment and partial assignment of lease to the land transfer and joint use agreement between the city and the Citadel, as well as any other necessary documents to be presented and approved by Corporation Council. This is on the corner of Grove Street and Rutledge Avenue. Melina, you're back on, I presume?
Yes, sir.
All right. You will give us some background information on this, please, ma'am?
Yes, sir. This involves 2 separate agreements. We have a 1993 lease agreement with SCE&G, now Dominion, and that is for a portion of the Grove Street substation. I'm going to share my screen very quickly. Under the 1993 lease agreement, we leased 2 sections of the Grove Street substation, which is on the corner of Grove and Rutledge Avenue is over here. This corner kind of triangle piece, we're calling the parking parcel. This is directly above where the ballpark is that was built for the Citadel. Directly next to the parking parcel is the additional area. Under the original lease agreement, it was just identified as additional area. However, today we use that as the dog park run connected to Hampton Park. So the first agreement was that 1993 lease where we're leasing from SC&G the parking parcel right here. The second agreement is a 1994 land transfer and joint use agreement with the Citadel, which included a number of terms, among which was for us to build a ballpark for them on this area right here, which is the College Park property. And in addition to building the ballpark, once that was completed, we needed to deed that back to them, and that was done in 2000. Secondly, we were also supposed to assign to them the lease for the parking parcel. So what this assignment of lease is doing is it will be assigning the parking parcel right here pursuant to that land transfer agreement with the Citadel. We would be retaining the dog park parcel under the lease agreement that we will continue to use. And in addition, the assignment of the parking parcel would be subject to the easement, which we have a 30-foot access easement right here for pedestrian and vehicular access to Hampton Park, as well as the dog parcel. The terms or the final form of this partial assignment is being reviewed still. So what we're asking today is for basically this to be approved subject to the final form being worked out by council. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
It's now somewhat convoluted, but you did a wonderful job of laying that out for us. Appreciate how you handled that.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see if there's a motion to approve this very complicated entanglement of leases and assignments and property transfers that Melinda just described for us. Is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, now we'll open up for discussion. Any questions or discussion on this item?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
not this item. Maybe we can get some information, after the meeting next week or whatever, on the agreement on the actual ballpark. I'm hopeful that we can get a high and better use out of that ballpark right now. It's a struggle to keep a good look on that. But anyway, I think Citadel's got right of first refusal or something like that. Maybe some kind of joint collaboration with the Citadel could be had with the city and the Citadel. But anyway,
That's a good point to bring up, Councilwoman Waring, because I'm interested as well as you started down that line of discussion. So, Mayor, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Melena if, in simplification, that all the current uses of this property, parking, easement, dog parcel, substation, nothing really is changing about the use of the property, is it?
No, sir. It's just who has the leasehold interest over the parking parcel. From what I understand, it's still going to be used as a parking parcel.
And how long of a period is it for?
For us, signing that would be forever. We're releasing those rights to the Citadel under the lease.
See. And that's something we had agreed to years ago, correct?
Yes, sir. That was in the 1994 land. It's a land transfer and joint use agreement with the Citadel, which actually covered a litany of different parcels. This just being one very small portion of that agreement.
Yeah, that all had to do, y'all, with the River Dog Stadium and making that work out between the city and the team, the at the time the Rainbows and the Citadel. That was all before our time.
right.
Yep. So what essentially is happening, Melena, if we understand this correctly, in conjunction with the mayor's just mentioned, the city is giving up the parking lot along with College Parks, which has already happened, College Park, to the Citadel.
Yes, sir. We were required to convey via deed the College Park property. That's already been done. So after the ballpark was built in 2000, we deeded that portion back to the Citadel. As in addition to deeding the College Park property back to the Citadel, we were also supposed to assign the lease for this parking parcel at that time. I'm not sure why it wasn't done at the exact same time, but basically we're trying to clean that up and take care of that now.
That was the term I was going to use, that you said clean up. That's we're just completing unfinished business, what it sounds like to me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Councilman Moyer.
Well, let me ask Melena on that agreement with on the actual ballpark. I thought, at least I heard anyway, that it had a reverter clause. In other words, if they ever fail to use it for, I guess, baseball or practice or whatever, it reverts back to the city.
Yes, sir, that is correct. There is a reversionary clause included in favor of the city. Off the top of my head, I cannot remember the exact terms of what would cause that to revert back. But I'm, again, happy to get you an answer for that.
That'd be great if you can do that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I just think that it could be a win-win for the Citadel as well as the city, and maybe a quality of life in that area, because it's just a struggle to keep that thing looking right. And
Mr. Mayor, you have your hand back up again?
Yes, sir. Thank you. With that question from Councilmember Waring would prompt me to ask if there was a reversionary clause on the fee simple title that we already conveyed years ago. Is a similar situation applied to this leasehold interest that if those conditions weren't met, that the leasehold interest would also revert back to us? Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Mayor. I did not see that included in that agreement in the 1994 agreement with the Citadel. Again, happy to double check, but I don't believe that there is a reversionary clause for the leasehold interest.
It might have just been the intent of the overall agreement. If you don't mind just digging back in, rechecking that. If we have that right, we would like to retain it.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Right.
Well, in that case, do we defer this to the next meeting?
We could, maybe it may be more prudent to make sure we have a clear understanding of exactly how those things work together in tandem.
I agree.
Yep.
Well, let me withdraw my motion to approve then, and I'll.
Well, may I interject, council member, that
Sure,
this is an ordinance. It will take 3 readings, and I think that's something that Melina and legal staff can check.
Okay.
I'm not averse to giving it first reading, and as long as we get a clear understanding of that before we get final passage.
All right.
Also, council members and mayor, Mark Brandenburg's on this call. He's the lawyer for the Citadel. He said he'd be happy to answer any questions. He's been listening in.
Mark, this is Peter Shea. Can you shed any more light on that question that came from the mayor about the right of the city to get this property back in the event of a violation of the reversion clause?
I certainly can, Councilman. There is no reverter clause on that lease, or on the in the original land transfer agreement, not on the lease of that property. There is a reverter clause on the College Park property, and what it provides is if it's no longer used for school purposes, it's not limited to baseball, it's just school purposes. And for what it's worth, the 2 big pieces of property in this transaction from years ago were your College Park and then what is now Joe Riley Park. The Citadel owned that piece of property, and so the deed that the Citadel gave to the city for what became Riley Park, it has a reverter clause as well. So,
but with the I hate to ask you this question. I don't want you to speak out of turn, but would the Citadel be averse to including a similar reverter clause on the leasehold part of this?
I would have to ask my client.
I did not mean to put you on the spot, Mark. So, and I kind of figured that would be the answer I would give if I was to ask that same question. So, if we proceeded with approving this tentatively, because it would take 3 readings, do you think you can come back and talk to our city staff about that and see where that may lead us?
Certainly.
Councilman Waring, is that?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's fine. And I don't know, maybe if you can have a wider conversation, Counselor, the whole idea about maybe getting more efficiencies out of this site. Because right now I know the Citadel uses it, but not a whole bunch. Maybe they can get more efficiencies on their campus because they're blocked in as far as land mass that can be utilized at this site, opening up a more effective space, behind the gates of the Citadel. But that's a larger conversation. But anyway.
Yeah, administrations come and go, board of trustees come and go, things change over time, and I think from a level of just consistency in unity, I wouldn't want to bind a future council saying, "Wait a minute, we got College Park back, but we lost the parking lot." That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Well, to me, it seems like it's not getting it back, but doing something that makes sense for the Citadel and makes sense for the city as well, and instead of just keeping a stadium that's going to be a struggle to maintain. And it is a struggle to maintain, frankly.
It is. So if this committee is so comfortable to proceed with the vote, and understanding that Mr. Brandenburg will get back in touch with our legal counsel to see if we can add that in there that reverter clause to the lease, so that would make sense. And we have a second and third reading coming up. Between now and the end of the year, we can get that resolved.
Yeah,
Is that amenable to the committee members?
Works for me.
yeah, sounds good to me too.
Okay. So Melina and Mark, if y'all could work on that aspect of it, that may make good sense.
Listen, man, I had breakfast this morning with 4 Citadel guys.
And they beat up on you, didn't they?
I know,
Beat
man.
up on you.
I was telling them they need to get the mascot needs to get a uniform with muscles on instead of anyway.
Yeah. All right, let's call the vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Before we get to the annexation, one more request. This is from Councilmember Waring by Jerusalem Baptist Church for abandonment of city-owned right-of-way. Councilmember Waring, do you want to shed a little more light on this request?
If Miss
I can share the screen if you'd like. I have an aerial pulled up.
If you could share the screen, right?
All right, you see it?
Right. You see the city portion outlined in, I guess, orange where the cursor is.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 lots slightly north of there, ending 114 and 115. So I understand is owned by Jerusalem Baptist Church, which is on Rutledge Avenue, kind of across from the basketball courts at Hampton Park there. Prior to the Pierman Bridge being built, this was kind of like, I guess, one of the on-ramps when the bridge was there to get up on the bridge. And you know, the highway department, I'm sure they paid a little something, but Jerusalem owned it prior to the bridge being built. So this was part of a right-of-way that was taken for the convenience, obviously, of the bridge. And when the bridge was taken down, this parcel was given back to the city. Obviously, they don't have any ingress and egress to their property. But, so anyway, I had a person from the church approach me about getting that property back to restore their property so they can have access to Hanover Street from both parcels. So I put this on the agenda and had a short conversation with Ms. Copeland, and also sent a copy of the mitigation agreement between the South Carolina Department of Transportation and the city, which had a lot of terms, and I thought it would be good I think she was familiar with it, but it'd be good for some of the other legal team to be familiar with that mitigation agreement. One of the things about the mitigation agreement was to try to re-knit basically the community. Some of the streets that were kind of bifurcated, were put back in place. And in some cases, one in particular, nonprofit who wasn't even in the community at the time the Pierman Bridge was built, was actually given the bus barn, which is now the School of the Building Arts. The city, in part of that agreement, gave it to the school for $1. So this church has been around obviously for decades. I'm sure I can find out how long, but I thought we'd have the initial discussions to see what would it take. It's not large enough for the city to do anything with, but certainly once added to restoring it from whence it came certainly made sense. So would make sense. So that's why I brought it forward to the real estate, so we can hopefully maybe take it further.
All right, Mr. Mayor, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if I may ask Councilmember Waring a quick question or two, and then share some insights about a few of these properties. Councilmember, have they owned these properties for some time?
Yeah, they owned it before the Pierman Bridge was built.
Okay.
The property record card showed that. I think they bought it in like 1960 or something like that. So
I remember a few years ago, that we had a request from a developer about this same type of request. And he must have had the property under contract to buy from the church, because I didn't recall that a church owned the property. I thought it was in some private hands, but maybe he could y'all leave that map up for a few more minutes? Maybe he was just trying to line something up, in order to buy him.
Probably
So,
right. You're probably right. But
from
right
when
now,
from
the church still owns one.
the church still owns it. So I presume they would, if they had access, they'd be able to get value for it and sell it and get maybe some housing on it. And I would share that from whence this property came. If you look at the map from 200 years ago, there was a creek that went through here called Vardell Creek. And so that's part of the reason why we bought those 3 parcels behind South Carolina State, where you see 001, 002, and 048. The
Right.
city now owns those 3. And then if you jump back over to the block where the James Lewis apartments are, where you see 78, 80, 82, 84, 86,
Right.
that's where their stormwater retention is going to be. So that's all in a very low-lying area where the creek used to run. And I'll be honest with you, we had wanted to buy those 2 parcels where all those 6 condos got developed. And
Right.
if we had had those, we would have had like a continuous little parcel that we could have put some drainage features. But even having not gotten those 2 parcels, I do believe we really need to consider the stormwater, and AECom as part of their study for this part of town. I think has spent some time thinking about what might need to happen here to help with water retention and drainage. And if it may be a situation where it would be better for the city to buy those 2 parcels from the church and include it in our stormwater plan. But I don't know enough to say that for sure sitting here today, but I'd throw that out there as a real possibility.
Minutes.
Oh, someone trying to talk?
Yeah, I think she muted herself.
Okay.
Ms. Copeland did. I think all those are possibilities, Mr. Mayor. I think all of those are possibilities.
We asked that Matt Fountain and AECom give us a little report on.
That'd be great. That'd be great. That'd be great. I don't know if you ever saw this drawing, Mr. Mayor, but prior to the anything being built on the bridge site, there was a plan that actually had a lot of this looking like with a big lake for stormwater, by the way, which would have been like Colonial Lake with houses around it. That was one of the original plans to try to solve it, because that same creek you made mention, basically going back to what nature had and creating a water feature there that would be stormwater. And like I say, you would had houses around it. I don't know if I dig far enough, I might be able to find that drawing, but I still like what we're doing with it better. But anyway, but stormwater solutions was a part of the thinking on this even before we even got the property back from the state.
Mr. Councilman Wade, I see that Elena has her hand up. Maybe she wants to chime in.
Sure.
Elena.
Sure.
Thank you. I was just curious, Councilmember Waring, you mentioned that you were aware of the mitigation agreement. And I believe that the request to discuss this issue was asking about the potential abandonment of this property, or I kind of read it as almost a gifting.
Well, yeah, just restoring it to the original property owner. Well, let's put it like this: when it was taken to the property owner that it was taken from, because the state gave it to the city. The city didn't pay anything for it, and you're just restoring to the owner that it was taken from. So that's why.
Sure. And I understand what you were saying. I just wanted to mention, though, that, you know, the mitigation agreement and the restrictive covenants on there would not allow us to just, you know, restore it or give it to them. We are required to either use that property for specific purposes, or if we were to sell it, we're required to use that money for those specific mitigation purposes. The point that I just wanted to make was that the option of just abandoning it or gifting it or restoring it is not permitted underneath that mitigation agreement. I also just wanted to mention, to make sure that we're all aware, because these were properties that came from part of that DOT right-of-way abandonment, they are all subject to a voluntary cleanup contract with SCDHEC. So I just wanted to be sure that we were aware of the environmental aspects of those properties as well.
I think all that's good information. Now go back to the part where you say we can't give it to them.
Yes, sir. It's my understanding, and of course, I'll let legal correct me if I'm wrong, but the mitigation agreement specifically says that those properties that were acquired as part of the deal with SCDOT, they all have to be used to benefit, or to, the exact language says, they have to be used to avoid, minimize, and mitigate adverse impacts of the Cooper River Bridge replacement project on the surrounding low income and minority communities.
Okay.
So they have to be used for specific purposes like affordable housing or parks or open space. Or if we were to sell it, those funds have to be used exclusively for those purposes. I guess the point that I was trying to say is, either the property or the funds have to be used for these specific purposes. We can't just, you know, give it away, essentially.
I understand that, but in reading that, take that and apply that to how the city sold the bus barn to the School of the Building Arts for $1. That came out of this agreement. Now, you may not know that, but I'll be happy to forward that sale of the bus barn, which was part of this mitigation agreement, to the School of the Building Arts. And again, there was no building, the School of the Building Arts when the Pierman Bridge was built, even in Charleston. And when the School of the Building Arts was built, I think it was over there at the old jail, right, Mr. Mill? That's where the school was? Okay. Which was nowhere near the Pierman Bridge. So I think there's a will. If there's a will, there's a way. But I think it'd be good for you to look at the agreement where again, the bus barn, which was a big building, a very big, but now it was in terrible shape. But and it's the general done a wonderful job over there. As a matter of fact, one of the things about extending their agreement was in helping the community. How many African American students were students at the School of the Building Arts, which is a very expensive school to go to, and they were supposed to offer a scholarship, and I'm sure they probably did. Mr. Broadwater is an honorable man, so I think he would. But anyway, take a look at that one, and maybe something can be gleaned from that to be helpful with. And maybe that's why it wasn't given to the School of the Building Arts. Maybe that's why it was sold for $1.
So, Mr. Waring, Councilman Waring, I'm not sure we're making any headway with this. Do you want to follow up with an action item on?
No, I think I wanted to bring it up for discussion so our legal team can even look into it a little bit, maybe a little bit deeper on how we can. The thing that the mayor brought up about potentially maybe a stormwater use, I think all those are possibilities, but I don't think we use that as leverage on the church property, because again, they were the one damaged when the highway was originally built through their property.
Yep. Mr. Mayor, you wanted to chime in on another point?
No, I was just going to say, Councilman Waring, let's just put a report on your next Public Works Committee from Matt and AECom about all this in that area.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. That'll be our action item then, is just we just make sure that, and since you chair that committee, but just
that makes sense to me. Okay, it makes sense to me.
We'll make sure that you add that on. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure.
All right. Well,
All right,
this was just for discussion purposes only. There's no vote taken or anything on this, but we'll look forward to the Public Works Utilities next meeting in November, having that for another discussion.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right.
I'm gonna move approval on items I-1 through, is that 6?
Yep.
For annexation.
There's a motion to approve items L, through 6. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Molly, I presume all these are residential?
On the back.
Almost
Ah.
all of them are residential.
right.
Your number 3 is going to be a small oyster facility for processing and packing. And number 4 is going to be a fire station. Aside from that, we've got all single family.
Wonderful. All right. So the motion on the floor is to approve all of these items as one. I'll entertain there's been a motion and second. All those in favor of entertaining this as one, say aye.
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 All those in favor of approving items, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right.
See y'all shortly.
Ayes and ayes have them. So I believe that concludes our real estate, and we are hereby adjourned. I'll see y'all all